Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through the industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Cynthia Bentzen-Mercer. She is a speaker, author, human capital strategist, and executive coach. Welcome to the show, Cynthia.
Thank you for having me, Ajay. Happy to be here.
You are welcome to the show, Cynthia. You are welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk about. We'll be talking about setting intentional career goals. So, my first question to you, Cynthia, is that you help a lot of ambitious women actualize their talent and optimize organizational performance. So, your focus is a lot on women in today's time. A lot of women are doing a lot in their careers, but a lot of them want to do more. As a woman, career woman who is looking at excellence in her career, how should one look at her growth path? Should it be about more competition with men, equality with men, or should it be more about achieving one's own potential? How should women look at their career path in today's time? That's my first question for my
Yeah.
understanding.
Ajay, that's a really provocative question. And I haven't been asked it in that way before, but I appreciate it. Um I think I think our process is that women should focus on themselves and readying themselves for the next opportunity. Um, Ambitious women are competitive by nature, just as ambitious men are competitive by nature. The difference is that oftentimes, because women still statistically today take on the lion's share, the majority of the household responsibilities, in addition to working externally, is oftentimes they put off investing in themselves. And so they are not on equal footing when it comes to progressing in the workplace because they're putting themselves not as a priority. So I think it's more about internal focus. It's about identifying the individual's unique gifts and talents and then investing in those to reach full potential. That equips you to compete on a more equal playing field rather than looking around and saying, who am I in competition with? And I would say that goes for men and women because women can be terribly competitive with other women as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. The whole idea was, to move towards finding a lot of, value for oneself. Even forget about just women, even men, the whole workforce itself is today trying to find more balance in their lives. That's the reason for one of the reasons for the great resignation and quiet quitting,
Mhm,
which is very much on. So,
mhm,
in that backdrop, the whole idea was to understand. Now, for a lot of women especially, we talk about things that hold them back for whatever reasons that they are. You are an expert on this, you will be able to tell us. One of the reasons is that many a times in several organizations, uh, either the management or the organization culture itself does not give that much of or keep that much of focus on women growth that they should be. And this is fair. A lot of
mhm,
people are understand this, managements understand it, the world understand it, and women also understand it and should understand. But Cynthia, you also talk about self-imposed barriers women create for themselves. I want to understand, as the world changes around us, what about self imposed barriers? Tell us about this so that a lot of women across the world understand these things, even if they don't know about it, but they have done it to themselves, so that they can come out of their shell and achieve the place on the high table that is very much theirs.
Right, right. We have a lot of self-limiting beliefs. And I think that, those are caused by societal norms, cultural norms. Um, Women, the Harvard Business Review study from years ago, women tend to over-index on performance. So we want to be masterful at something before we're willing to try something else. Men over-index on potential. If they tick 3 or 4 of the boxes, they'll give it a shot. They'll figure, I'll fake it till I make it. And so what we really encourage women to do is to get out of their own way and some of the self-limiting beliefs that we hold. Part of it is that society judges women who work and women who stay home. And when you do both, you're sort of in the rock and a hard place. If you work too much, gosh, is she a good mom? If you leave work early because of family demands, is she really committed? And so the stress and the tension that comes between particularly those who have home life responsibilities, and that may not be children, it could be aging parents, it could be other family members, community members, etc., that we are investing in and taking care of. But getting out of this notion that everyone else's point of view about what we're doing is what matters, and being comfortable that we're making choices and creating boundaries at work and boundaries at home that give us some time to invest in ourselves, some time to make ourselves a priority. I think women think that I'm either selfish or selfless. And we would argue that self-actualization fits in the middle, that you can invest in yourself. Sort of the metaphor of put your own mask on first. You are a better mom, you're a better professional if you are taking care of yourself and showing up in your fullest of your potential.
Right, right. So the next question is, how do you get started? Someone say out of college or a few years into the job. How can you be fully intentional about your career? Do not think about it later on. And your career should not decisions about your career should not revolve around things that are either forced on you,
Mhm.
or those are things that can be avoided. How do you do that? If you do that, that should be your choice. The choice has to be entirely yours. It should not be a barrier to your success. How do you do that? How can women especially be intentional in setting their career goals and achieve
Yeah.
their full potential?
Right. Ajay, I'm so impressed with your knowledge of the subject matter and the questions that you're asking. They're so on point. Um, we would, if we were to summarize 9 chapters of our book that's coming out on March 19th, now near next, I would say this: identify your next professional milestone and start working on it today. That's really the through line. So, regardless of what you're doing right now, it doesn't mean you take your eye off the ball of what you're currently doing. It doesn't mean that you're not fully invested in your current role or your current position. But it also means while you're doing that, instead of putting off when the kids go to school, when the older children graduate from high school, when all of these things down the road, instead saying, I'm in this position today, which I'm fully invested in. Identify what is that next career milestone or goal, and then create a path to get there and start working on it right now. Even if it's 7 minutes a day, even if it's 7 minutes of reading a book that is helping to expand your knowledge base, or listening to a podcast, or meditating, whatever that is, where you're investing in yourself and movement toward that goal. There's a wonderful quote by Martin Luther King Jr., and it is Martin Luther King Jr. Day today, the day of of this podcast, and it's one of my favorites because it emphasizes our point, which is if you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, keep moving forward. That's our message to women. Start now, don't put it off. Every day, move toward that next goal.
Right, right. Let's look at your career journey. You have spent a good amount of time into good achieving a lot of things for yourself. You yourself are a PhD, not a small thing. That speaks of the amount of dedication towards not studies as well as work. In your career journey, what would you like to emphasize and take out the points from your own career journey and tell women about the do's and don'ts, so that their journey becomes better, much more intentional for themselves.
Yes. So we studied, and I will speak to mine, but I want to add that we studied 30 women, very successful women, through qualitative research. We surveyed another 300 women, and then we studied a lot of the quantitative research as well, in addition to my experience and background, as well as the experience and background of my co-author, Kimberly Rath. And what I would offer is we spent a lot of time studying success from this perspective. Myself and other women would say I was lucky. I was in the right place at the right time. Someone took a chance on me. And while all those things might be true, what we wanted to understand is what were the things that happened that if we had been intentional about it and we could bottle it and we could give it to other women, they could repeat that same recipe for success. And I would tell you, for me, the things in hindsight that worked were I was constantly learning. I always had a growth mindset. Now, part of that was because I get bored easily. And so I'm a natural learner and I'm intellectually curious. And so when I would start to get restless in my career, I would seek out a new certification or went back and got my MBA or later went on to get my PhD. Um, that may not be the right exact path for every other woman, but the point is having that growth mindset, being willing to and open to constantly learning, constantly stretching yourself, um, and growing. I think the things that in hindsight I wish that I had done differently is when rather than waiting for something to be off, feeling that I didn't fit within the culture, feeling that years ago I worked for a leader um, who had a lot of inappropriate behavior. And it was waiting until those things happened that I began to look for my next. Instead of constantly thinking about what is my next and how am I going to work toward it? Because then you're planful. Then, if life is messy and disruptive, you have a blueprint for where you're going rather than feeling like you're starting from scratch. I'm suddenly laid off and I have to figure it out. My spouse is relocated and I have to start over. Instead, you have a blueprint that says, okay, at least I have a plan. I have a GPS to my next.
Right, right. One more thing I wanted to understand: the role of men. It's a fact of life, both complement each other,
That's right.
and in different ways, and more or less at different points in time. So, what is the role of men? How should women look at the role of men in their lives?
Mhm.
How does it work? What is the best way where it all calibrates the best for everyone? How should they look at making the best of the people around them, especially if they're men?
I love that question because what it brings up and highlights is our book is not about men bad, women good. It's not about society has made it hard and so therefore this really stinks and we've got to figure it out. It really is from the perspective of how do you, as an ambitious professional career woman, set yourself up for success? in spite of everything else, how do you set yourself up for success? Because we believe that diversity is king. We believe that women and men serving together in the workplace is absolutely the best recipe for success. We need different points of view. We need different experiences. Frankly, men and women show up differently. We need that. It's a great balance. I think that what we encourage women is to see everyone we work with, regardless of gender, regardless of background, regardless of race, etc., that we're all part of bringing ideas and thoughts and energy and creativity to create exponential success. For men, I think it's this, and we've had many, many men resonate with the book, whether it's because they have a wife that is in the professional workforce, because they have daughters, because they have a sister, because they work alongside women. But I think the calling to men is, and there are many, many, many out there who feel this way, is to recognize some of the imposter syndrome women face, some of the self limiting doubts and beliefs they have, and to open doors and create opportunity and be realize that they're showing up sometimes in their own way. And so, how, as a male leader, can you help a woman get past those things? How do we make certain that women and men aren't judging women that because they have kids, they won't travel, or because they have kids, they won't work as many hours? How do we get more comfortable with remote work and hybrid work when it makes sense, instead of assuming that because the person works remote part of the time, they're not as ambitious as others? So I think it's that openness, it's that understanding that we need to have for all people, right? Because at the end of the day, the studies are very clear. The more diverse the boardroom, the more diverse the leadership team, gender, race, ethnicity, the more successful organizations are. It's very clear in the data. And so we would offer that we just want women to look up, look forward, and to find their unique place at the table.
Absolutely, absolutely. One more question around this, and then we'll get to the book in much more detail, Cynthia. A lot of women, whatever starting they have had, or in terms of education, many of them have great ideas, they have great growth potential, but they think, I have not done, some great schooling or some great college, and that I have to compete. Some people, you can only rise to a certain level only when you have done great degrees or some management school or something, but they have great practical knowledge, they
Right.
solve problems, but the mindset is there, it limits them.
That's true.
How do they look at achieving their full potential? When they can do it, they are doing it, but they are ready, not too much ready to take on that big step that is very much possible for them. What would you like to tell them?
I think the biggest thing is to find and surround yourself with sponsors. It's so important, and regardless of educational background, but particularly, and this is true of men and women, the difference is that men oftentimes have a number of other men who will sponsor them because they have a shared life experience. Women have to be a little more intentional about developing these sponsors, and that's the theme throughout the book, is intentionality. And so what I would suggest is that women who have these aspirations, that perhaps they didn't go to an Ivy League school or they don't have advanced education, but they're practically doing the work on a day-to-day basis, is to identify those individuals that see their work, that see their potential, that see their performance, and put their aspirations into the world. So it would be me sitting down with you, Ajay, and saying, what I would like to do as my next career goal is X. And it would be so wonderful if you could support me in that. What happens with sponsors is they're the voices in the room when you're not in the room. Right. So when Ajay is in a room with other executives and a job opportunity or a project opportunity comes up, you now know that I have an interest in that. And you can then support and say, Cynthia might be good at that. I understand that she has an interest. Oftentimes, women do not put their aspirations into the world. And for a lot of reasons, part of it being our own self-limiting beliefs. And because of that, we expect people to be mind readers. We get disappointed if we get passed up for an opportunity, but the reality is nobody knew that we were interested in the first place. And so we have to take some responsibility for letting other people know our interest and then asking for their support.
Right, right. Now coming to your book, if I understand, it's coming in March, or if it, I don't know if it has come earlier on. Now near next, a practical guide for mid-career women. What is this book about? Who is this book for? Though you call it for mid-career women, should they wait for mid-career to come in, or is it important for even to younger people? Help us understand, know more about what can people, women especially, learn from this book.
Yes. So, first of all, our target audience, when we think mid career, we didn't put an age band on it. However, if we were to, for illustration purposes, it's about 28 to 55, 58. So, it's that really long part of your career, 3 decades. And so what we found is, as we studied women, is that's the stage where they're the busiest, number one. And they start to get restless. They start to feel unactuated. They start to feel as though they have more to offer than opportunity is presenting itself. Oftentimes, because we're spinning lots of plates, we're dealing with the home life and the work life. We're not looking up and looking forward. And so it's for the majority of professional women. And I would break it down in three ways. There's three parts of the book. The very first section is really about setting the table. It's about creating space to unapologetically, guilt-free take time to invest in yourself and really know who you are at your core, your values, your beliefs, your mission, your purpose. Part two is then about identifying your next, really creating clarity around what is my next career goal and ensuring it has a great fit for your talents, your skill sets, your knowledge, and creating a development plan to start working intentionally toward that. And then section three is about how do you create an infrastructure around you to support that journey, like sponsorship, coaching, mentoring, and resilience. Because at the end of the day, we can create these beautiful plans, but life can get messy and sometimes there's disruption. So, how do you prepare for and handle those disruptions? And so, really, the through line is identify your next, start working on it now.
Right, right. As an executive coach, what are the things that women especially come to you? What are the things that they need help in today's time?
hmm So, it's everything from there's one position and they're interested in it, but there's also another female um, peer that's interested. And this feeling of, well, I don't want to compete for that role. I don't want to be perceived as self-promoting. So we'll spend time really thinking about there's a difference between self-advocating and
Okay.
self-promoting. So it's not about you're competing with Sally. It's about you being the best and preparing yourself for the next step. Um, so that's part of it. The other is oftentimes women don't have great boundaries at work and at home. And so they're juggling a lot and they're trying to figure out how to create time to invest in themselves. And we spend time thinking about what can you delegate at home? And in the workplace, are you taking on volume or value? Are you being asked to do a lot of things because you're willing, but they're not adding value and you're just the go-to person? How do you create boundaries at work so that what you're doing is adding the most value both to the organization and to yourself and your development? So those are just a couple of the types of things that I deal with. I also coach men. I coach 2 C-suite male executives based on my background experience. But the book is certainly surrounded with coaching women, and that has become my sweet spot.
Wonderful, wonderful. There is much to learn from you, Cynthia, and I'm sure a lot of people would like to learn more from you, more about you, connect with you. So, what is the best way for them to connect with you?
Yes. So our website is probably the best opportunity. And you can get the book there. And you mentioned it is in pre-sale. So we publish on March 19th, so 10 weeks away. But we are in pre-sale. And for those who are interested, we have $600 worth of free educational bonuses just for the purchase price of $28 for the retail. So between now and publication date, if you pre-order, you get a whole host of wonderful educational assets for free. And that is www.zealoftheheel, ZEAL of the HEEL.com. And there's a place there to connect with me. There's a place to purchase the book and bonuses and to learn more about our speaking, executive coaching, and other services that we offer. We're also on all the socials with the same handle, Zeal of the Heel.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you.